Good day, friends. It's Craig Cullinane here. Thank you so much for checking out the sixth in the series, the final session of this awakening series that I've been offering for the last 6 weeks. We began with awakening the sacred, and we talked about awakening gratitude and then pleasure. The fourth session was awakening our breath. And last week, we talked about awakening play and fun. And today I want to conclude the series with an exploration of awakening desire. Awakening desire. Let's all take a breath into that. Noticing what comes up even with the word desire, what gets sparked in you, right? So I want to talk a little bit about the nature of desire, the energy of desire, what it means to awaken it, how we can possibly consider doing that, and then how do we get in relationship with it in a way that's skillful and that we can do with wisdom, right? So desire energy lives in us. It's, I think, inextricably linked to, it's the same thing as our creative energy, our life force energy. There's this thrumming, pulsing energy of desire that activates us and animates us and moves through us. In some ways, in some spiritual traditions, they talk about how desire is actually God. That we are these vessels, we are these temples through which the flow of that desire energy, God, expresses. Like God, we are here as available as this vehicle, as this temple for God to experience God's self. And that energy is the energy of desire, God's desire to know God's self. And that energy moves through us. It offers itself up again and again and again. And it's powerful and it's beautiful and it's something that we can get into a relationship with. And I think that the energy of desire, the experience of desire, has gotten a very, very bad rap and time of it over many, eons of human culture. And we can see all of these different traditions, religions, cultural ways of experiencing or understanding desire that, rather serving to get into wise relationship with it, it seeks to suppress it. It seeks to cast it out, right? There's lots of Eastern traditions of asceticism, which is about casting out desire. And from that thought system or that experience of reality, people say the whole point of life is to subdue desire, to squash it, to contain it, or to eradicate it entirely as a pathway to God. Right? Then there's other, other traditions like, say, the Catholic Church or the tradition I'm from, the Irish Catholicism, right? Which is afraid of desire. That desire is something actually to fear. That it's too powerful. It takes us to places that are sinful or lustful. That we need to again control it or be afraid of it or cast it out or imprison it as a pathway towards, again, God, perhaps. But there's some real consequences to that, right? That effort to control and subdue desire can often result in an experience of deep shame. Like how shame systematically can be used to cast out or make negative or control this beautiful, possibly godly experience of the energy of desire that lives inside of me, or all of us. The Buddha walked a path of deep asceticism, subduing desire, doing everything the Buddha could to contain or cast out desire in his pathway to liberation. And in his journey, before his enlightenment, he came to an awareness himself through his own experiments where he realized that that severe asceticism of casting out desire did not serve the pathway to liberation, and thus was born into the world through the Buddha's experience, the middle path, the middle way. Right? That there's some value in having relationship to our desire energy, and there's some value in being able to be in a right relationship with it. Right? Because, of course, what happens when desire gets out of hand? Right? We become gluttons, right? Addiction, craving, all of those things. And for many people, and me too, everyone, desire can lead to suffering. The suffering of craving, the suffering of grasping, the suffering of addiction. How desire energy is, how we strive to be in relationship with it in a way that clings rather than sort of holds space for this energy in our lives. I heard once the opposite of addiction is connection. That addiction serves grasping, clinging to something that we desire, serves to actually cut us off, to isolate us, to strengthen the illusion of separation, rather than being that desire can be an entry point for a deep connection, deep intimacy with myself and with other people, right? And that's that balance, right? And few of us really in our modern world are trained effectively to be able to dance with desire energy, to be in right relationship with it, to skillfully manage it. The energy of desire can be likened to a galloping horse, so powerful that we don't have the experience or the strength to contain. And that can be really unsettling. It can be destabilizing. It can be something to fear, something to be concerned about, for sure. Right. So this idea of like, okay, let's reframe the whole thing, right? Let's say, what if my desire energy, my desire itself is sacred? What if my desire is holy and good and natural? What if it's just as it should be? How do I get into relationship with desire in a way that's skillful? It's interesting because I'm a coach, and oftentimes I'll ask people, like, what do you desire? What are your heart's desires? And people go blank. They don't have any, they don't know. Maybe there's some vague ideas of some kind of longing or something they're interested in. But to really be in the question, what do I desire? What are my heart's desires? That exploration requires time and attention. It requires the willingness to sit still, breathe, and check in with that part of us. I can ask myself that question. What do I desire? I can breathe into it. I can wait for a response from within. My intuition speaking to me, answers coming from within. My desire, your desire, our desire will speak to us. It will communicate if we are willing to listen. And that's one of the keys to getting into relationship with our inner desire. The willingness to slow down, be quiet, and give attention to this beautiful question. What are my heart's desires? If I check in with that, for me, there's something about freedom. I desire freedom. I desire financial freedom. I desire a home that I love, that is beautiful and safe, and that I love to be in. I desire meaningful connection with friends and lovers. I desire to see this beautiful, amazing world we live in and live with. So I can just welcome the attention that my desire energy that lives with me, I can listen to it. I can be willing and curious about what it says. I can breathe into it. I can allow myself to feel what it feels like in my body to experience my own desire. And of course, our ego mind wants to come in. Oh, well, I don't want to feel my desire because I have a consistent experience of disappointment. And that disappointment is too painful to bear. So I don't even want to give attention to my desire. Right? And that's real. Disappointment. But again, I think that comes to that part of it that's about clinging and grasping, holding on too tightly to what we think we want. I want to suggest shaking that off a little bit if possible. And again, the simple, open, peaceful invitation to feeling and experience our own energy of desire, to give it space to speak, to communicate, to live in our system, right? There's something very beautiful and powerful about being open to what our desire says to us. And I think that's also a very creative energy. It's an energy that brings that very desire to us, or makes possible the conditions for it to become manifest in our experience. But if I get in my head with it, if I start clinging and grasping and getting afraid and getting really caught up in the how, well, how do I do it then? And how do I turn this into a goal that I strive for? It's like when it all of a sudden shoots upwards from my body's experience of desire into my head, that's something to be aware of, right? Let's share a breath. Sometimes it can be frightening to be in relationship with our desire because all of a sudden it may start telling us things we don't want to hear. Like, wait a minute, are you going to start telling me, energy of desire, that this job I have that, checks a lot of boxes but I'm not particularly happy in, that maybe I should give it up? Maybe I should try something else? Oh, wait, energy of desire, are you telling me that maybe the relationship I'm in isn't serving either of us anymore, and maybe it's time to let it go? The energy of desire can bring forth the possibility of change. And then, of course, what's our relationship with change? How does fear step in? And ultimately, what's my relationship with the unknown? What's my relationship with risks? I have had an experience in my life of being in touch with my desire in a very particular and clear way, and that has been my journey of work. I had a job at a university in Boston for 5 years that was really wonderful. I loved it, and I loved what I was doing. I loved the people. But at the end of about 4 years, 4.5 years, I was like, you know what? I do not want this anymore. In my body, in my heart, I knew I did not want to do this anymore. And at that time, I did something. I made a choice that I've never done before. I said, look, I'm going to listen to that energy of desire. I'm going to act on it, even if I don't know what's next. I'm going to take a leap of faith. All I knew is this job is over. And so with that information, not having another job, I gave my notice and I said, at this time, I'm going to be leaving this job. there was something so powerful about listening to that voice, and it opened up possibilities that I could never have possibly imagined. I started having conversations with anybody who did anything I found interesting. And through this series of, coincidences and serendipity, a job came into my life, my next job, working inside maximum security prisons, bringing theater and art to incarcerated people. That job came to me through a window I never would have expected. And I deeply feel intuitively that had I not listened to that voice inside that said, "You're done with this job, trust me," I never would have gone into that next experience that was so profound for me. So part of this is a little bit of faith. Part of it's a little bit of like, stepping into the unknown sometimes if my desire is very clear within me. But part of that process is slowing down and getting in relationship with the energy of our desire in an intuitive way, in a feeling way, so that when it speaks, I know it's speaking and I'm clear about what it says. And then I have a choice to trust it or not and do what it says or not. Anyway, so let's breathe. Your energy of desire is holy and sacred. It is essential. And it behooves us to be in relationship with it in a skillful, clear way. And I hope this helps to maybe even give yourself an opportunity just to sit down maybe with a journal and just ask yourself the question, what do I desire? What are my heart's desires? And see what comes. Sometimes you need to ask the question a bunch of times, right? If that part of us has been shut down, it's not so, it's not going to be so quick to respond. But if it keeps being beckoned and invited into consciousness, it will speak. Thank you for joining me for this awakening series. My dearest hope is that it was helpful and useful for you. And I'll see you next time. Thank you.